Did you know there's a whole forest inside a seed? One tiny thing can hold the power to reshape the world. And the craziest part, so can you. Because you were made of ancient ocean. The salt in your blood, it's almost identical to seawater. You're not on Earth, you're of it. And every time you eat, you're eating sunlight. That's all food is. A transfer of solar energy through a plant, through an animal, into you. You're a walking, breathing flame. And guess what lights it? Your gut. The so-called second brain. It's got more neurons than a dog's brain. It feels before you think. And when you feed it right, your whole world shifts. But you've only got 4,000 weeks. That's it. If you live to 76, that's all you get. So how are you going to spend them? Because the earth is humming, literally. A frequency called the Schumann resonance, the same frequency as a calm, focused brain. You are designed to be in tune. And you know what made us human? Fire. We're the only species that cooks. We harnessed flame and everything changed. We fed our brains, we fed our dreams. Reality isn't fixed. It depends who's looking. And in the forest, trees are talking. They send food, warnings, love through underground roots. Nature is alive. It's intelligent. And it's waiting for us to remember. You're not just a consumer. You're a force of life. You carry sunlight, story, and soil in your body. It's time to act like it.
All the 5 elements are constantly with us, whether we realize it or not. We are the 5 elements, and whether we even act that way, we're still the 5 elements. And this is what creates imbalances in the 5 elements. Any form of imbalance in the 5 elements creates disease and illness, whether it's mental illness, emotional instability, whether it's physical illness, or all the above. So in order to heal ourselves, we must be completely and totally cognizant of the 5 elements. Last week, I spoke about the fact that there's no such thing as calories. I do not know who came up with it. I don't know who invented the idea. However, it is a false notion. We do not need calories. How do we know that? We cannot touch calories. We cannot see them. We cannot taste them. We cannot feel them. They're not available to the 5 senses. But the 5 elements are, very much so. And we spoke very much about them last week. And I'm going to actually repeat some of the things from last week for those who were not with us about the 5 elements, and why I am saying to you that when you live a life of abundance or a life that's lacking in abundance, it all has to do with the 5 elements and how we relate to them. Today, we are focusing on the element of fire, thus the video I just showed you. And the 5, why am I doing this? Because the 5 elements, if you look down here, you'll see in the ticker that the 5 elements are very much associated with an aspect of nature. We are an integral part of nature. And this connection runs deep within all of us, whether we realize it or not. So when it comes to human life, some people believe that the 5 elements play a role in the balance of energies in the body, contributing to everything from personality traits to health and well-being. So how you respond to an incident or an accident, let's say we were all witness to an accident. So there are 4 co-hosts here today. Not one of us will have the same response or the same report about the accident. And a lot of this depends on the balancing of our 5 elements that day or at that moment. Very much so. So from the smallest atom to a giant whale to the solar system itself, all things are said to be composed of some combination of the elements. So the 5 elements are used in pretty much every different type of traditional Chinese medicine, in Hindu, in Ayurvedic medicine, in a lot of different medical systems that are ancient, the ancient medical systems. And despite everything that has happened with modern medicine, the five elements have shown that they still are the basis of our healing and our health. They have not been displaced. So, the five elements theory is a holistic approach to health and overall well being. It's been a part of numerous alternative medicine traditions and for centuries, especially Chinese medicine. And we also find the five elements to be a central theme in Babylonian, Greek, of course, Chinese, Japanese, Hindu, which is Ayurvedic medicine, Buddhist medical systems, and also in alchemy. These elements are believed to represent fundamental aspects of nature and are used in various practices, including traditional medicine and also in philosophy, to explain interactions and imbalances or balances in the universe. So, one of the things that I want us to think about today and to focus on today is whether or not we, as human beings, as part of nature, are really focusing on balancing the elements. And what you'll see to the left of your screen is the element of fire. This is coming from Pete, who is in the forest today with the fire. Now, we do not know how well this will take because this is a live broadcast. So, hello, Pete, and hello, and Hannah, and hello, Fire. We will do our best. We're hoping that the internet will work there. And I just love that we now have the element of fire here for you, because this is an element which I think most people will respond to very quickly. So, these elements are believed to represent the fundamental aspects of nature and are found in all these various practices. However, fire is the one with which most people associate for some odd reason. I do not know why. And there's some elements I'm talking about in Western societies and in actual mainstream Western medicine. However, what is important about fire and all of the elements is that they're all associated with specific organs. So let's look right now at the element of fire. So knowing that each organ of the fire element, what it does for us on a daily basis, physically, emotionally, and of course on every level, gives us a divine opportunity to learn how our bodies operate and exactly what our organs need. This is critical and this is very, very important. So to understand the body and all of creation through the Ayurvedic lens, that's the ancient medicine of India, Ayurveda, all organic and inorganic matter in the universe is made up of ether. We focused on ether last week. Air, we did that the week before. Fire, water, and earth. And we can be continuing with these for the next few weeks. So today we're looking at the element of fire. The organs of the fire element in particular are extraordinary in that there are 4 organs or functions compared to 2, like most other elements, that actively work to keep our bodies warm or cool. Is the fire element is also involved in keeping our bodies cool. Now, the major organ with which we are dealing with when we talk about the fire element is the heart. The heart has the incredible task of pushing 5,000 gallons of blood throughout the entire body every 24 hours. And it ensures that the body receives oxygen and nutrients and beats 100,000 times. So the organs of the fire element in particular are extraordinary in that there are 4 organs or functions compared to 2 like the others. So the heart itself is home to the spirit, whatever it is within us, the Shen. And it's also home to many mental and emotional patterns that are brought to the surface when our heart isn't functioning as well as it ought to. And we're seeing a lot right now of angst, anxiety, and a lot of rage in society. This is from the fire element. So in Chinese medicine, the heart is the ruler of everything, and it is protected by all the other organs in our system. So the moment our heart stops functioning, guess what? Everything else stops functioning. Now, the second organ of the fire element is the small intestine. And did you know that 90% of the nutrients you need are absorbed in the small intestine? So obviously, this is one important element. Connected to the tissues, the tongue and the throat, the small intestine controls the way in which we absorb both food and information, and is at its peak of activity between the hours of 1 to 3 p.m. Now, we're going to be having some other guests come on to discuss some of these things, and you will find out even more about that in future broadcasts. So the small intestine is the third and final line of defense in keeping our minds free, our thoughts clean, and our speech both coherent and aligned with what's true within our hearts. So when the small intestine is congested, and the things that we throw in our mouth, and notice I didn't say eat, I said throw in our mouth, because most people do not masticate. Most people do not eat. I do not like to bear false witness. So I'm very particular with my language, because it's really important. When we say to people, did you eat so-and-so? What we're presuming is that they actually masticated. And if it's not, then that blocks the small intestine, and it creates a tremendous amount of horrible reactions in the body. So being the separator of pure from impure, it leaves us to ask, and I'm talking about the fire, the element of fire. Is it true? Is this digestible? This is what we're meant to ask every time we put anything in our mouth. We need to ask, is this true? Is this really food? Is this a food source? Is this digestible? Is this worthy of the heart's time and energy? Because the heart is going to be really working to help the intestines digest this. Knowing what each organ of the fire element does for us on a daily basis, physically, emotionally, and spiritually, gives us a divine opportunity to learn how our bodies operate and what our organs need. Now, some of you have heard about the Agni, and we're going to be speaking about that later. But first, I want to bring on the element of fire himself, Pete. Could you please come on stage? We will see how you manage, if you're able to hear you. Unmute yourself, please.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. So go right ahead. This is wonderful news.
I better be quick. Yeah, there was many. I can share you the story another time, but this is where I am with the fire behind us. It's getting stoked. But yeah, it's really interesting when you mentioned the small intestine and the heart. It's all connected to the little finger. So in terms of Jinshin Jayatsu, so you can harmonize by holding that. And what's the attitude to that in terms of trying too hard, pretentiousness? So when they're out of balance. So, and then you got the Sagittarius, Aries, and Leo. They're all fire signs, and each sign connects to two organs. So within Jinshin and many other protocols, you can use methods to bring them in line to balance them. Also, so you could really, through astrology, really, and Jinshin and sound and everything like that, you can really home in on the compromise or disbalance that is going on. You mentioned in terms of us just swallowing our food. Yeah, I so agree. That's why sort of juicing, smoothing is very valuable, especially for reset. Some people move on to that full time. So to me, it's like our vehicles, combustion vehicles. It's like practically everyone has their full throttle on their car inside in their vehicle, because of literally just what you mentioned in terms of rushing the food, swallowing the food, not being mindful, out of their bodies in the very beginning. So what are we digesting in terms of other thoughts, thinking? We haven't done any kind of potential relaxation, or so really we're digesting the day, we're digesting our stories, we're digesting subconscious elements that we are so unaware of, hence why we get caught up in a very perpetual cycle, in terms of there's many layers to that. So it's amazing. I mean, I have Moon Mars in Leo, that's as well as a few other things. I'm a Sun Aquarian. Not to get stuck on that neither, because we are much more beyond that. However, I haven't seen really anyone shift through that.
We just lost Pete and his fire, and we are going to continue now with Blythe. Blythe, come on in and let us know, what is your relationship to fire, the element of fire, please?
Oh, wow. Thank you. What is my relationship to fire? This is such a wonderful question and conversation. I loved having Pete there with the fire. I love the fire. I mean, the fire is like you gaze at the fire for meditation. When I think about fire in my body, I think about digestion. So it was great, Tori, to hear you say the heart, because yes, it's like awaken, of course, yes, the heart. But I always think of it in terms of the digestive fire and the enzymatic process in the body. Yeah.
So I think Pete might be back, but he's not coming up exactly. So I'm going to wait for him to come up again. Here he is. Okay, he's back. But in the meantime, yes. Pete, did you hear what Blythe said?
I didn't know. Oh yes, can you say that again?
Oh, I was just talking about the digestive fires, right? Like when I think about fire, I think about the enzymatic process in the body, and the importance of that, and the fires in the pine forest, how the fire, we need the wildfires to open the pine cones so that we may have these amazing forests. And that's just what I was talking about. This is all, my relationship with food and my diet has always been so focused on alkalinity and oxygenation. And this context of the 5 elements is a new idea for me. And I'm loving listening. I have so many questions. Like I want to ask Dorit, like, how do you balance the elements in your diet? Like you mentioned balancing it. And I'm curious what the ideal ways of balancing the elements in our diet and balancing the fire elements in our diet and in our life. I'd love to hear what you all think of that.
So that's actually in my course, the Being Healthy course, which is the corresponding course to this podcast. This podcast is the companion to the book. And the book itself, once I finish editing it, I work with editors now and it's taking me forever, it seems. And then I have a course that goes with it. And in the course, people get to really work with this, and they begin to experiment for themselves and see for themselves how all these elements come together. So it's not something that one can just throw out with a sentence or two. One has to, I think, experience it for themselves and actually work with it. So I'm going to ask the same question of Lisa.
I love this conversation, Dorit. And I also really love that Pete literally brought the fire to this conversation. I think that's super magical. The fire for me is really a place of connection. I spent a lot of my childhood going into the mountains with my father and riding horses for weeks on end. And it was the one place we would all go as a family where I would feel the most connection, being out in nature, being around the fire. It's something that I think is just ancestral. It's a way to share stories. It's a way to connect. And I think we're really missing that in modern society. Now we gather at a computer, which of course we're doing now, but I do think, that's why I love having my fire on at home. I love candles. I just love the energy of it. I find it to be very transformative.
Sabina, you live in a forest. Let me know your relationship with fire, please.
So I always had a very strong connection to fire. I actually have a fireplace in my house, and in the winter I make a fire every day, and I just love the act of making it. I love sitting in front of the fire. I just love the heat that emanates from the fire. And I am a very fiery person by nature. I have a lot of areas in my chart. Even I'm a not water. I'm a earth. No, I'm an air sign. A lot of movement, but also a lot of fire. So I've always been a person with a lot of energy, a lot of life force, a lot of anger in my youth. Now it's more the joy that comes out, but I'm by nature a very fiery person. So, and I also walked through fire many times, not physically, but let's call it, I went through many dark nights of the soul where literally I had to burn an old part of me so I can rise anew from the ashes like Phoenix. So I've gone through this process many, many times, really letting it all burn. So I love the fire. It's probably I would say one of my favorite elements of all the five. And I love waking up in the morning with this fireball coming in my room. We all have that fireball outside of our house. So when the sun is up and comes in my house, I just wake up naturally very early. Like in the summer, it's usually 5:30. And I notice on the days where the fireball is not up, I have a little harder time to get up. So I just noticed that I also, our food is exposed to the fireball. So we naturally eating actually fire with, as you already mentioned, Dorit. So when we eat living foods, we're eating fire. We're eating the purest form of sun energy, which is very healing and very powerful nutrients. So yes, I love fire in all its forms.
So that's very interesting that you spoke about the fireball, which is the sun waking you up. A few weeks ago, we had a full moon, and most people forget that the moon is also the element of fire. And Sabina, you had an very interesting encounter with the full moon. Can you tell us about it?
Which one? I had many. many.
The last one. The last one. The last one.
Oh, the last moon, that one was intense. I mean, it affected me probably, I would say, almost a week. I noticed that the sun, I have a skylight, and then the moon comes inside, and the whole place is lit up. So I would wake up like every night, it was always around 2:00, and the whole place was lit up. And I thought, oh, it's morning, time to get up. And I realized, no, it's the middle of the night, but the moon was so bright. So I went outside. As always, I go outside and I just sit under the moon, and I just love moonbathing and just taking the energy. But it was something very magical, especially this moon more than any other. And it was like so bright. It's like this huge, huge ball. And it was like, wow, brighter than I ever thought. And it was actually, it's so close. I felt it's right there. I can just grab it. So I had a really powerful experience. But I didn't sleep much the whole August. It was quite, and then I just can't just go back to bed. So sometimes I would get up and would just do yoga at 3 a.m. because I'm so awake and so alive. So yes, that was just one. I had many powerful encounters with the moon.
Yes, and I'm glad that you remembered it, because I thought, oh, how could you have forgotten that? So when I was a child, I would, every time there was a full moon, first of all, I was always outside. I was always outdoors anyway as a child. So it's not like I went out because it was a full moon, but I would sit and just watch the moon. Now, to an outsider, it looked like I was watching the moon. That was not true. I was communicating with it. It was so intense, the communication. And I always knew that the moon was there to protect me, to guide me, and to show me the way. And I began to have conversations with the moon since I was a child. I still do until today. I eagerly await full moons. I speak to quarter moons. I'll speak to any moon, any phase of the moon. And I too, Sabina, am a moon bather. I'm not a sunbather in any way, shape, nor form. In fact, as soon as the sun comes out, I usually went indoors when I was a child, and I still do. But when the moon comes out, so do I. And we know that that's when the wolves come out too. And I remember reading a book a few years ago called, I think it's Howling with the Moon. No, some of you maybe you remember the name. Dancing with the Wolves, Women Dancing with the Wolves. Those of you who read it, you can remind me. Lisa.
I was just acknowledging, because that's a very big book that came out quite a while ago, and it does awaken that deep longing and connection for something more. I think just the experience of the moon, it illuminates the darkness, and I think it perfectly connects to our own dark and light energy, and learning to connect with that experience of really being whole. Because when you embrace your darkness and you embrace the light, I think you're really connected to all.
And I'm a lover of the dark. I'm a lover of, my favorite time of day is sundown. As when I was at university, and I was at University of Tel Aviv, and what you have a street that goes straight down to the ocean, and the university is on a slight hill. And I would watch the sun set across the ocean. It looked like it was going to the ends of the world. And I remember sending love to Australia, thinking, you're next. It's going to be visiting you next. And to New Zealand, and to Papua New Guinea, and to Polynesia. Almost, I would rush out of class. I literally leave the class and just run to watch the sun set, and knowing also that the moon would be next, which was really exciting for me. And I remember realizing that we're not just connected to it, we are it. The moon wanes, or lives wane, or thoughts wane, or emotions or feelings also. It's almost like they're there to mirror us and to show us where we are in our own lives and what's going on. Blythe, I'm going to bring you in here. What does the moon have any connection to you, mean to you? And it's the feminine energy, so we will bring up Pete on that afterwards. But still, do you find that your feminine energies light up more around the moon?
I love the moon. You were telling that story, Dory. I wrote a book years ago called The Little Girl in the Night Sky. I need to publish that book now. But it was all about, a little girl and her love for the moon, as she just gazes at the moon, because that was me too. I've always loved to moon bathe. I'm like outside moon bathing. And I love the sun too, both. I feel so nurtured by both just sitting out in the sun. So many times when I'm working inside, I need to just go outside and just sit in the sun for 10 minutes and just feel that energy and feel that warmth and get back to work. And same with the moon. I mean, the moon, we do moon rituals and moon lists with my kids. We write down what we want to create in the new moon and what we want to let go of energetically and physically. And yeah, I'm very nurtured by the moon, and we get so excited when we can see the moon. I say we, like my kids and I, when we can see the moon during the day, and you can just like, the moon's right there, and there's the sun, and there's the moon, and it's just like, wow. Yeah, I'm greatly in love with the moon. And definitely to answer your questions, I've always felt that, connection with the cycle and the moon and the water, especially living by the ocean, feeling how the moon moves the tide. When you're at the beach in the morning and you stay till the late afternoon and the tide comes in and you're like, wow, the moon did that. Like the moon moved all that. Well, I mean, it's an extraordinary revelation to witness the moon moving the waters of the ocean, and knowing that the moon moves the waters within us as well. And also allowing us to have space for that, allowing us to connect to our body as water, you know, as so many things, as electrical impulses, as just light. And all of those things are moved by the moon.
Thank you. Yes. And when I was studying with Deepak Chopra, we were studying to be teachers of the Chopra Center, meditation, yoga, and of course, life skills. One of the assignments that Deepak gave us, at the time we were in La Jolla, that was before we moved to the other place. We were in La Jolla in Southern California. And when we went, our assignment was for the evening when we left our classes with him, that we were to go to the tip of La Jolla, and there is like a cliff there, and we were to stand on the cliff and watch the actual ocean coming in, and the tide come in and go out, and come in and go out. And the rhythm of it, because he didn't say to us the rhythm of it, he wanted to see what we experience. So what a lot of us experienced was the rhythm of it. However, we found out afterwards that what he really wanted us to feel and realize is that the ocean itself is vast, it's immense, it's one huge ocean, but that every wave is unique and every wave is different. So each wave leaves the ocean at some point to come to the shore, live its life, and go back into the ocean to be absorbed into the ocean. And that was our lives.
Mm.
And it's interesting because when the moon was out, it was so dramatic, as you were saying, Blythe. It was so dramatic and it was so intense. And I totally got that. I didn't know how to frame it and say it, because that was of all the experiences I had at the Chopra Center, and I had some amazing ones, like we were taught Sufi dancing. I love the whirling to the drums and the music and whatnot. That of all of them, that was to me the one that has stayed with me and has really cemented for me the fact that nobody's alone here. We cannot be alone. Anybody who say they feel lonely is because they do not know themselves. The only time I've ever felt lonely in my life was when I lived with a boyfriend, and I felt lonely every day with him. And that was the first time I felt lonely. And I realized all I had to do was go outside, and I didn't feel lonely anymore, because there were the trees and the moon and the stars and all the insects and everything else to delight, in whom I found tremendous delight. So if you're lonely, I invite you to invite all of the elements to become more intimate with them and invite them in and to teach you about who you are. And Pete, thank you for reminding me the name of that book, that it was Women Who Run with the Wolves. And with whom do you run, Pete? With the fire, perhaps? So I think the internet is not liking you being outdoors.
How about now? Can you hear?
Yes.
Can you hear me
yes.
at all?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. I have had interesting wolf experience at the moment. Actually, elephant is around for us, for both of us. So that's interesting. Can you hear me? Okay, still?
Yes, Pete. Just keep going. If
Okay,
not, I will let you know. I will let
I'll
you know.
carry on. So yeah, interesting. The Truman Show, that was an interesting one about the moon. But there was a book as well I read, I think about a long time ago, in terms of the influence of the moon to do with women's ovulation. Every time there's the same degrees in unique individual birth chart of a woman, that if it's 80 degrees, 90 degrees in their birth chart, every time it comes around, that's their peak ovulation. Also in this book, it was studied that lots of certain murderers would go out and actually commit that offense. In hospitals, there'd be more people coming in for emergency. They would tend to bleed more. as well. So there were different things of the moon. The moon, I really am inspired by the moon. I think it's amazing. I mean, I love the sun, I would say more so, but in astrology archetype, there's different meanings, but in terms of astrology, it's the feminine. So for me, in terms of the inner motion, you could say the left side on Kabbalah and many other things. But and in relation to the fire, I realized for 8 years out of the 17 years when I had a fire phoenix wake up experience, Christmas Carol scenario, everything burnt down on our shoulder, I wouldn't be here for another year if I didn't change my path. So that was a phoenix experience. I've had quite a few, some people who know me. I just had one about 2 months ago with the sauna here. So that's getting rebuilt. But that was interesting. 12 years we've had the sauna. So it carried a lot of energy. And I was carrying a lot of people, and it showed me time to just about me and the family to really ground what is coming through now, which is absolutely amazing. So I realized 8 years out of the 17 years, I would sauna, do my food and be by a burner for 8 years out of the 17. And in about 2 hours, the whole ritual would unfold. I only really took notice of that when someone said, she said, I don't think I've ever ate alone, which was interesting. I'm like, wow. So that got me to get thinking that. So it hasn't been with intention, nothing I read. I really love the fact if we get out the way, a lot of things I've realized people have told me or I've cross-referenced, it's like it becomes an innate connection, and without making a big deal out of it or capitalizing it and things like that. So there's lots on the moon. I mean, there's the moon map. That's an interesting one, apparently. And there's only the moon is you only see one face of the moon. So the moon map, what do I mean by that? If you look in the reflection of it, apparently it's mirroring our planet plane, depends what we want to see. That was very interesting. And there's clocks globally that are still map that kind of same imagery even in Wales, in where we are in England, Prague, there's certain clocks that actually map the map moon. So that really took me by surprise. So the moon, Cancerian, so it's the thumb, spleen and Cancer. It's all about worry, so you can hold that, harmonize that, show your children that. And it honestly is jumper cable. So sometimes our energy is all fragmented all over the place. So we're making a connection. So we're bringing it back. So we're doing our own soul retrieval, our own self-help, our own nurturing and balancing ourselves. So that's what I love about the self-help and Jin Shin, and all these old wise tools, which probably date back to Africa, to be honest. So, and a whole blend. So it's the moon, I find, is really interesting. There's lots of conspiracy about the moon too. So, but I won't go into that one. But in astrology, as many things I believe in terms of the beliefs, we don't have to be tied to any of them beliefs. If we choose to put more entanglement in that and energy into that, then that is our truth, and that stays very fixed. Astrology, we can, it's like the A to Z to get somewhere. Eventually you don't need the A to Z because you've done it so many times, and you have reconnect back to your innate wisdom. So there are many tools, but the moon is amazing.
So another source of fire is actually the stars. And I find it interesting that whenever I'm teaching a class or a group, people always forget about the stars. And I think, how can anyone forget about the stars? Oh my gosh. So Sabina, could you tell us, please, something about your relationship with the stars?
I love the stars. So any opportunity I have when the nights are warm here, I actually sit outside and I gaze at the stars. I actually love doing that. So we had a really mild August. So I spent many nights before I go to bed, I do some stargazing and see, it's always something interesting going on. I sometimes feel, I don't know, Maybe it's just my impression that some of those stars are moving, or is it just I'm envisioning this, but I saw movement in the starry sky. And it's not an airplane. It moves a little bit and it stops. So I've been just observing the stars, but I love stargazing. I've always loved doing that. And I think it's much more interesting. I always tell my son, instead of gazing into the screen, how about gazing up there? It's much more interesting what's happening up there. And I've just find it very stimulating, actually, to do stargazing. It's very something romantic. Oh, I'm like completely in the sun now. You hardly see me anymore. Yes. So I recommend anyone, get curious about the stars and see what's happening in the sky. And if anyone has any feedback, whether there's movement up there, that would be appreciated.
Thank you, Sabina. And I've actually, when I work with parents, I often recommend that they spend some time, quiet time, without them speaking, without children speaking, just going out together somewhere and just stargaze. No noise, no agenda, just be one with the stars. I think children are so full of awe and wonder that we have lost, that it's important to keep it in them and to reconnect and connect to all the forms and ways in which the universe nurtures us. I think it's important, especially for anyone who has the kind of issues and problems that I see a lot of people having now with addictions and addictive behaviors, to remember that we're made up of all of the elements and that we need to find the balance within them. And I think if recovery centers would focus on the elements instead, and the ways in which to balance the elements, I think there'll be no more need for recovery centers. I think it's very missing. I would like my contribution on earth to be that people will, this is the theme, that this is something for me, this topic that I live, I'm passionate about, and I'm constantly teaching it. And I'm constantly looking for ways in my own life to increase my own significant use and significant gratitude for each and one of the elements by nurturing them and nourishing them within myself, and creating this field around me where each of them take precedence over my own thoughts and feelings, so that I look to see if they're balanced with the thoughts and feelings that would actually bring me into a place of balance with all the elements. And I think what we need to think about too, and even focus on, is not whether or not they're balanced so much as whether or not we are assisting them in creating balance, not just in our own bodies, but throughout the many universes in which we lived, our homes, plus the communities, our families, larger communities, countries, and the earth itself. So with that in mind, Blythe, what would you wish to see? Getting this information about the elements, what would you wish to see happen with this knowledge?
Sorry, hold on. I just got distracted. That's okay. What would I wish to see happen with this knowledge? That people incorporate it and become healthier for that. I love what you said, like reminding us to stargaze. I love that, just reminder to stargaze. In Los Angeles, it's very bright 24 hours. And so we don't see the stars here. And, at the famous Griffith Park Observatory, it's in many, many movies, the downstairs of there's 100-foot wall, and you see all the celestial bodies. And they tell you, when you get a tour there, when you learn about what this is on this 100-foot wall, they say it's the part of the sky that's covered by one finger. When you look up, it's covered, like when you put your finger up in the sky and look up, that teeny tiny speck of sky is what this 100-foot photograph with all of these celestial bodies. And so even when we do, go north of Ojai, when we go places where it is dark enough where we can really see the stars, because we can't really see the stars in Los Angeles, when we go to where we can see, we can't even see hardly, even when we see the blanket of stars above us, we still can't see all of the celestial bodies that are really there. And it's really something that it's baffling. It's something that you can contemplate and be curious about more and more and receive more. What is going on here? I mean, and it is all moving, and nothing is bumping into each other and exploding. It's extraordinary, the light and the energy that exists around us. There is endless space and endless stars. It's amazing.
Yes, endless indeed.
Endless.
Lisa, you're on the beach. How would this work with you?
Yeah, Blythe is right, actually. You can't really see the stars from here. I can see the moon, which I absolutely love. I love to watch the moon, over the ocean, because it impacts the ocean in such a interesting and beautiful way. But the stars, you really, like Blythe was talking about, you really need to get outside of all this light that we have here. And that's my favorite thing about camping and being outside and hiking in like the Pacific Northwest, because it's just a blanket of stars, and it's really literally takes my breath away, because it's such a great reminder that each of us is a star. Each of us has this beautiful light. And I think, Dorit, what you talked about, like with children, go out and stargaze. I mean, it's important to be reminded that we are nature, and we're connected, and we're part of a grander system, and we have to remind ourselves of that, how interconnected all of us are. So thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. And Pete, let's see if your internet will allow you to come on and speak with us now. Pete, are you there? If you can hear me,
Yes,
just come on, please.
I am now. I'm trying to remember what. Yes. So just run the question by me again, Dory.
So right now, I'm sure you can see the stars because you have a lot of blackness around you. You don't have the light pollution that we have in Los Angeles that Lisa and Blythe were speaking about. But are you able to? Are the stars visible to you there?
It's more much less recently. When they are out, I mean, at the moment, no, we have a lot of chemtrailing. I have to just put that out. There's a lots of I wouldn't say it's anything to do with the pollution. I forgot to say, yes, I was going to say also the sun gazing. 17 years ago, I was doing lots of that. So for me, that was igniting my inner fire. So that was really amazing. In relation to the moon, I remember my older sister who passed away a long time ago. We've worked different dads. Her dad was more rooted from Africa, Ghana, and my sister was quite let's just say psychically connected, or just more connected. And she would tell him a story about looking at the stars. So this kind of I won't say contradicts, but in their tradition, it's like, oh no, don't do that. It's not very safe. So that's an interesting one. There's lots of things that I've looked into that I might have judged in the past, and then delved into it a little bit more, whether it's just the ingrained or the psyche conditioning from each culture, and then once again, what we believe is true, the more in the culture believe it, we tend to be used and manifest that. That's another topic. So that was an interesting one. A friend of mine, I remember, she did a very similar thing when she's doing certain medicine. She was out there looking at stars, and they come out and really quite horrified. Oh, you can't do that, it's not safe. So that's interesting. How do we balance that up with or with the beauty of the stars. It is beautiful. You know, people in the sauna with the glass roof, and me too, you know, shooting stars, seeing the shooting stars. You know, there you are, detoxing away, and you're just really dropped in, and you really digest it more, you know. So, and that's the really beautiful thing about having the glass and the stars. I mean, you know, apparently we're made of stardust, you know, we're all part of everything. So in some other ancestral whether mythology truths, we are the stars, you know, and that's our ancestors, that's all the other souls, you know, shining up there, shining their light down. You know, another thing is when the sunbeams, that's a different one actually, that's not the stars, but when the sun has beams down so many rays, you know, the angels can come down on that, through that, which I like actually, and that would make a lot of sense with all the dimming out of the sun and not allowing our spirit, that spirit, you know, it's a massive beautiful time at the moment in terms of activation of the sun, from the sun. So you can see why there's a lot of damping down of the sun, and you know, it's a reflection of obviously us beings here, really, to be honest, in terms of symbiotic relationship. But yeah, maybe I'll leave it there.
Thank you very much, Pete. And so one of the things that I wanted to also bring up today is the Agni, the fire in the belly. This is where the digestion takes place, as we know. One of the organs which the fire element of fire affects is the small intestines. So how do we get the name the Agni? Actually, Agni, the name Agni was a Hindu god. And in Hinduism, Agni is the son of the celestial waters. You see the element of water and fire together. Just think about it. Which of these elements is more powerful on earth? Which one is the strongest? The element of water, because water can put out fire. Most people think the strongest and the most dangerous, the one with the most ability to be dangerous would be fire, but it's actually water. So you've got to have the balance there. And that element is close, that element of water, which we'll be talking about in 2 weeks, is closely connected with fire, which is thought to be carried down to earth within rain, within the actual rain. So from there, fire is drawn up by vegetation. And so when two sticks are rubbed together, fire appears. And you'll see to today, a lot of people do that when they're camping. So Agni is also responsible for lightning. That is really dramatic reminder to us about fire and that we are the element of fire as well. And lightning is born from, in Hinduism, from the god's union with the cloud goddess. Another fire Agni is associated with is the funeral fire. In this role, Agni, the Hindu god of fire, leads the dead to their final judgment by Yama, which is who is the ruler of the underworld. I invite you to start looking at all of these elements in Ayurveda, in Chinese medicine, in all the ancient texts and the ancient tribes of the world, and I think you'll learn a lot about yourself just from doing that in itself. Now, Sabina was speaking about her love for fireplaces. It's interesting because when I do not, even when I lived in Canada and in the northern states of the United States, I did not turn on the artificial heat. I do not like artificial heat, but I always made sure that I found a place to live that had a fireplace within it. Because I too, like Sabina, love fireplaces, not just for the warmth that it gives, but watching it. Sabina, what is it about fireplace that delights you most?
Well, first of all, I like gazing into, because you see so many different colors. Even blue is in fire, and you see purple and orange and yellow, red. There's so many different colors. I mean, the more you gaze into, it's like I find it magical. So I love the gazing into. I also love the way it feels. And when in the winter, when it's really cold, I actually love sitting at the fireplace completely naked and really taking that heat. It's like a sauna almost, even it's not a sauna, but it's like sweating in front of the fire. I find it so healing, and actually it's detoxifying. And sometimes I just like meditating in front of the fire, just, closing my eyes and actually feeling it, feeling that heat, feeling the vibration of fire, and just really soaking it up. So fire has also, I used to actually many years, not many, maybe 3 or 4 years ago, I used to run fire circles. I would actually invite people. I had also fireplace in my backyard. We would make a bonfire and we would sit around the fire. And there were some friends who were musicians making music. We had this beautiful sharing circle. We sing together and make music, and then each one would share something, and we would always put whatever we want to release into the fire. So that was something I offered for a while, which I enjoyed. And then it was time to move on, do something different. As I love the change, and I love being innovative and come up with new things. But fire is, it's the transformer, but it's also the destroyer. So it's a powerful element, yes. And I love being not sitting, but right there with it, yeah. And just exploring it in many different ways.
Thank you, Sabina, for that magical impression of fire. And Lisa, did you get some ideas from Sabina just now to having some fire circles with your beach awakening group?
Yes, it's interesting. In California, there are beaches where you can have bonfires, and I just love them. Where I live, they don't allow that, but there are places you can go, and I just get such joy of seeing people, families, kids gathered around the fire at the beach. It just reminds me, oh yeah, we're still alive now. we're still doing this, just like ancient civilizations.
Well, I am really, really glad that Pete was able to make it on the internet with the internet today. And we just one last word from everyone, just one sentence for everyone about the element of fire, please, in your own personal lives. Starting with Pete.
Yeah, for me, it's like I'm coming out of the fire, such a rebirth. It's been an element for me being a guide, I would say, in terms of third dimension, a painful guide, but in terms of rebirth, beautiful. So it's like the phoenix, coming out of the fire. There was a guy, Leonard Orr, fan of rebirth, breath work. He mentioned you do an element each night, whether it's water, the fire, grounding, or something. He studied many shamans over the world. They all did something with the elements. So he's eat by the fire. So that was really interesting.
Thank you for that, Pete. Thanks an awful lot. So everyone, we don't have a chance for everyone to say goodbye today. Blythe's internet is also not working. So I want to just say thanks to everyone for having come by today, and do explore how the elements really help you to balance. Bye, everyone.